Hey everybody, this is Dr. Maples. We're back with 5-Minute Sociology, and today we're going to talk about Emile Durkheim's term anomie. I'm going to give you some backstory on how it was originally used, going to give you some clear examples that you can apply to your life even today, and I'm going to talk about why this idea is so important all these years later. We got a lot to do today, so what do you say we get started? Anomie occurs when there's a breakdown in the norms, values, and expectations placed upon the individual by our society. And it often happens in periods of social change, say an economic crisis or a pandemic. Not like we've lived through both of those in the last few years. What happens is the individual is left with a feeling of disconnection. They don't feel part of the greater society. They don't feel that they're able to live up to the expectations for many reasons, or those expectations may simply be impossible or don't apply anymore. In fact, that's at the root of anomie. It's this feeling of disconnection and unsureness about what is supposed to happen next. So for sociologists, anomie pops up in 1893 in Durkheim's book, The Division of Labor in Society. But for Durkheim, he'd actually been thinking about this term for a minimum of 6 years. 6 years prior to publishing that book, he had actually been writing a book review of Jean-Marie Guyot's work, which also talks about anomie, but in a very different direction. Now, for Durkheim, he took it in a more of a, we're going to think about the division of labor in society kind of perspective. So remember, Durkheim is thinking about things like industrialization, the movement of people from rural country areas into cities, and how the changing relationships of this are impacting our society. Anomie is something that occurs with social change, and he argued that as the division of labor changed, we also saw that the old values from these close-knit communities, and mechanical solidarity would be the term he used. We'll talk about that in a future 5-Minute Sociology video. We're changing to organic solidarity as they moved into these urban relationships where people having total strangers make their daily bread. This, he felt, was really important because it left people feeling disconnected from society. They didn't feel that sense of cohesion that interested Durkheim so much, and he felt that it was kind of a negative thing. And he later takes this into another book, the title of which I can't say because YouTube will flag this video, but you can find it on his Wikipedia page linked below. He takes it and looks at religion. He argues that if you're in a faith that has a stronger sense of cohesion and group engagement and so forth, it actually has a very positive health on your overall, health outcomes and well-being. So for Durkheim, he's heavily thinking about this idea of the division of labor. But today we've kind of taken anomie in some slightly different directions. Let me give you an example. Let's talk about buying a house and having a family. Oh, you laugh, because those things are impossible for you, right? Your lived experiences show you can barely pay your rent, much less have a pet rock at this point. But previous generations in our society would be very quick to tell you, hey, we had huge families of 10, 12 kids, and we did great, and we bought a house, and we have wealth. Why won't you do this? Well, it's because cheeseburgers weren't $27.50 a piece back then. Back then, they called the cheeseburgers Flat Freddy's, and they were $5 for a poker nickel. What's happened is a whole bunch of social change. Our economy has changed. The pandemic has changed things. You live in a very different world than, say, 67 years ago that we were experiencing. As such, the resources, the timing, everything just is not lining up for you to live up to this social expectation. As such, my students are like, yeah, I'm never having kids because I couldn't send them to daycare and still pay my rent. And this leaves them with this feeling of disconnection from society, this feeling that society doesn't understand you, that they aren't hearing you, that you're not able to participate, and yet you're still expected to participate, and it leaves you feeling strained and disconnected from our society. So there we have it. Anomie, one of those early sociological terms, still important even today, and helping us understand that feeling of disconnection when social change creates a situation where the norms and values break down and don't quite line up with the reality of the individual's experiences. If there's some terms or ideas or people you'd like me to cover in 5-Minute Sociology, leave me some comments below. Otherwise, I will see you next time. Take care.